Justin Gomez had been a trauma nurse in Chicago for 8 years before signing up with Galactic Medical Exchange, dedicating nearly a decade of his professional life, a significant fraction of his prime, a period often marked by vibrant personal exploration and the forging of lifelong connections, of establishing roots and envisioning a future beyond the immediate demands of his profession, a time when many of his peers were settling into more predictable careers and building families, pursuing advanced degrees, or investing in nascent technologies, seeking not just financial stability, but also a profound sense of rootedness, a clear trajectory for their personal and professional development that promised a steady accumulation of comforts and achievements, a life carefully curated and often publicly celebrated, measured in tangible milestones, a life seemingly free from the harrowing unpredictability that marked his own existence. They pursued passions like spontaneous backpacking trips through Southeast Asia, months spent learning a new language in a sun-drenched European city, or dedicating years to mastering an intricate musical instrument, experiences that broadened their horizons and enriched their personal narratives in ways that felt both tangible and deeply fulfilling, offering a sense of self-actualization far removed from the constant confrontation with mortality. These were the years where foundations were laid, where personal narratives were meticulously constructed, where the future was a canvas awaiting brushstrokes of ambition and desire, a future that for Justin felt perpetually deferred, constantly overshadowed by the immediate, the urgent, the critical. His path led him instead to the chaotic, often heart-wrenching crucible of the emergency room, a place where the thin veil between life and death was constantly being torn asunder, not subtly fraying at the edges, a gradual erosion that might allow for preparation or acceptance, but ripped open with brutal instantaneous force, often by the sudden impact of metal on flesh, the unforgiving pull of gravity, or the silent internal insurrection of a body turning against itself, a betrayal of its own. Intricate design, revealing the raw, visceral reality of human vulnerability in its most stark and unforgiving form, a brutal, unvarnished spectacle that few ever truly witnessed, let alone repeatedly faced, an existential theater where the human drama played out with an intensity that bordered on the unbearable, a relentless barrage of urgent moments demanding absolute, immediate engagement, stripping away all pretense and exposing the fragile core of existence, a relentless maelstrom that demanded not just physical stamina, but an almost spiritual fortitude, an unyielding commitment to confront the abyss day in and day out, to stand steadfast against the encroaching darkness, to bear witness to both the terrifying fragility and astonishing resilience of the human spirit, a relentless assault on the senses that nonetheless sharpened the mind and hardened the resolve, forging an inner steel that few outside its confines could ever truly comprehend or cultivate. The choices made by his peers, though perhaps less overtly heroic, were nonetheless deeply resonant within the established societal frameworks of success and fulfillment, emphasizing personal gratification and the steady accumulation of capital, both financial and social. Their adventures, while significant for them, remained largely within the bounds of what was comfortable, aspirational, and ultimately safe. They learned of the world through curated tours and planned itineraries, their challenges often intellectual or logistical, their moments of growth often found in quiet contemplation or structured learning environments. For Justin, the learning was immediate, brutal, and unyielding, a constant high-stakes immersion in the most profound and terrifying aspects of the human condition. While they invested in real estate and retirement funds, he invested his very being into the lives hanging by threads, into the desperate, unspoken pleas for more time, for a chance at recovery, an investment that paid dividends not in currency, but in the immeasurable worth of a saved breath, a returned pulse, a life pulled back from the brink, a legacy etched not in ledgers, but in the hearts and memories of those he served, a silent testament to a different kind of wealth, a different measure of success, one profoundly intertwined with the raw elemental forces of life and death, an existence lived not on the comfortable sidelines, but at the very epicenter of human struggle. This steel was not born of indifference or callousness, but from a profound understanding that to truly help, one must stand unflinching in the face of suffering, allowing its immense force to temper rather than break the the spirit. It was a strength derived from countless battles fought on the knife edge of survival, a quiet, unwavering resolve cultivated in the relentless pressure cooker of life and death decisions, a resilience that allowed him to navigate the most profound depths of human anguish, without succumbing to the overwhelming despair that threatened to engulf so many. This inner core, often unseen by those outside the medical fraternity, was his most vital protection, enabling him to remain empathetic and effective even when confronted with the most horrific displays of human pain and loss. He learned that the very act of standing firm, of offering a steady presence in the midst of unraveling, was in itself an act of profound compassion, a silent declaration that even in the face of the ultimate unknown, humanity would not yield. His peers spoke of personal growth through curated experiences and introspection. Justin's growth was forged in fire, in the crucible of absolute necessity, each crisis a hammer blow shaping his character, each life saved or lost an indelible etching on the bedrock of his soul. He understood that while others built elaborate fortresses of comfort and security, his purpose was to stand at the breach, where the walls had already fallen, where raw existence met its most brutal challenges. He was the one who entered the wreckage, not after it had been cleared, but while the dust was still settling, while the cries of distress still echoed, offering his skill and resolve not as a distant observer, but as an immediate, visceral participant in the desperate struggle for continuation. The profound gravity of these encounters, the sacred trust placed in his hands, created an emotional landscape within him that was rugged and deeply contoured, a testament to the constant, relentless engagement with the spectrum of human suffering and the astonishing, often miraculous capacity for recovery. He bore witness to tragedies that would haunt the periphery of memory, the quiet despair of families grappling with irreparable loss, the sudden, senseless cessation of vibrant young lives, but also to triumphs of the human will that defied all logic, infusing him with a paradoxically hardened yet infinitely tender core, a testament to the fact that true strength lay not in avoiding pain, but in confronting it head-on with an unwavering heart, offering solace and skill when both were most desperately needed, becoming a silent, unflinching guardian of the precarious spark of life. This unique tempering process did not diminish his humanity. Rather, it refined it, stripping away superficial concerns and exposing the raw, essential goodness that lay beneath. The unshakable commitment to alleviate suffering, to preserve life, to honor the inherent dignity of every individual, regardless of their circumstances, their past, or their future, becoming a living embodiment of compassion in action, a quiet testament to the enduring power of selfless service. The very air he breathed within those hallowed yet harrowing walls was different, charged with a potent mix of adrenaline and despair, of urgent hope and impending loss, a rarefied atmosphere that seasoned the soul and etched itself onto the very fabric of one's being. It was an environment saturated with the unspoken stories of countless lives that had passed through its portals, some salvaged, others lost, each leaving an energetic residue that permeated the sterile surfaces and echoed in the hushed corridors, a silent chorus of human experience, a cacophony of silent pleas and triumphant sighs that only he seemed to hear. The antiseptic scent, usually associated with cleanliness, was paradoxically intertwined with the metallic tang of blood, the faint sweetness of bodily fluids, and the sharp, anxious aroma of fear, a primal olfactory cocktail that became the signature scent of his existence, a constant visceral reminder of the fragile boundary between order and chaos, between life and its sudden, terrifying cessation, a smell that would forever evoke the urgency, the desperation, and the profound sanctity of those moments teetering on the edge. Sounds were amplified, distorted, imbued with urgent meaning, the rhythmic, insistent beep of a cardiac monitor, a mechanical heartbeat against the backdrop of silence, a steady, hypnotic pulse that could suddenly accelerate or flatline, each change a dramatic shift in the patient's immediate prognosis. The sudden, shrill shriek of an alarm indicating a critical change, a siren's call to immediate action, cutting through the general hum with an almost physical force, demanding undivided attention. The guttural cries of pain, raw and unfiltered, tearing through the quiet from deep groans to sharp, involuntary yelps, each a testament to agony endured. The whispered consultations of medical teams, a rapid-fire exchange of critical information, hypotheses and directives, a specialized language spoken with an economy of words and an urgency born of necessity. The distant wail of an approaching ambulance, its mournful cry, a herald of what was to come, growing louder, more insistent, a premonition of new crisis about to descend. Each sound a vital clue, a herald of what was to come, a relentless symphony of crisis that assaulted his auditory senses, yet provided crucial information, a language of urgency understood only by those who spoke it fluently, a constant dynamic narrative unfolding through the acoustic landscape of the ER. The visuals were equally stark and unforgettable. The stark white of hospital gowns against the pallor of a patient's skin, a canvas of vulnerability, often tinged with an unnatural grey or blue, revealing the body's struggle. The vibrant red of blood, a stark splash against the clinical sterility. Sometimes a slow seep, sometimes a catastrophic gush, each drop carrying the weight of vital essence. The frantic movements of hands gloved in latex, a blur of practiced precision, performing intricate procedures with a focused intensity that belied the chaos around them. The desperate, pleading eyes of family members, reflecting a universe of unspoken fear and fragile hope, their gazes clinging to his, searching for reassurance, for a miracle, for any sign of reprieve. The controlled chaos of a resuscitation bay, a tableau of human drama unfolding in real time, demanding absolute, unwavering focus. A precise ballet of trained professionals battling against time, their movements synchronized, their expressions grimly determined. He often found himself pondering the stark dichotomy between his chosen path and the seemingly idyllic, carefully curated existences of those he knew from his youth, friends and acquaintances whose lives unfolded with a predictable, almost serene cadence, their trajectories marked by a steady, unwavering ascent up the ladders of conventional success. They navigated the complex social topography of professional networking events, meticulously planning their career progression, attending prestigious conferences, and diligently cultivating influential mentors, their lives a testament to strategic planning and calculated ambition, a careful orchestration of success that rarely admitted the messy, unpredictable intrusion of tragedy. He would scroll through digital chronicles, the meticulously updated LinkedIn profiles of former classmates, now emblazoned with promotions, prestigious titles, and industry accolades, each endorsement a quiet affirmation of their professional gravitas, their contributions celebrated in corporate newsletters and industry journals, their successes meticulously documented and widely disseminated, a public record of their achievements, each new milestone a rung climbed on the ladder of societal approval, a visible, tangible demonstration of their progress in the world that felt so distant from his own. These digital profiles, often replete with smiling headshots and glowing testimonials, painted a picture of uninterrupted triumph, a narrative carefully edited to exclude setbacks, struggles, or the quieter, less glamorous aspects of professional life, projecting an image of effortless ascent. Their social media feeds, a vibrant mosaic of meticulously captured moments, brimmed with images of carefully planned vacations, sun-drenched beaches in the Maldives, ancient ruins explored in Rome, bustling markets navigated in Marrakesh, snow-capped peaks conquered in Patagonia, or serene cruises through the fjords of Norway, a testament to lives rich in leisure, cultural immersion, and adventurous pursuits, milestones of achievement that felt so distant, so utterly alien to his daily reality, an existence lived in a parallel dimension where the harsh exigencies of suffering rarely intruded, where the biggest crisis might be a delayed flight or a misplaced reservation, where the only urgency was the next curated experience, the next perfectly framed photo, a life seemingly untouched by the raw, unvarnished realities that were his daily bread. He saw images of friends effortlessly gliding down ski slopes in Aspen, sipping craft cocktails on rooftops overlooking Manhattan, or performing intricate yoga poses against a backdrop of Hawaiian sunsets, each moment framed for maximum aesthetic impact, carefully constructed narratives of well-being and privileged ease. These friends debated the merits of bespoke suits versus ethically sourced casual wear, The subtle nuances of fine wines or the latest culinary trends, their discussions revolving around aesthetics and comfort, around the subjective experiences of pleasure and taste, the latest innovations in home automation, or the optimal routes for private school drop-offs, a stark contrast to the grim, visceral realities that occupied Justin's every waking moment, the objective, undeniable truths of life and death, pain and relief, the stark fundamental realities that stripped away all pretense and left only the raw essence of being. This mental juxtaposition was a frequent, almost subconscious exercise, a quiet counterpoint to the relentless urgency of his own days, sparking within him a complex blend of detached observation and an almost wistful recognition of the paths not taken, the roads less fraught with the raw edges of human pain. He observed not with envy, for envy would imply a desire for their lives, but with a profound sense of otherness, a distinct sense of his own existence having been forged in an entirely different furnace, under different stars, adhering to an entirely different set of cosmic laws. A world where the currency was not wealth or status, but breath and heartbeat, where the balance sheet was tallied in lives saved or lost, not profits or losses, where the only true luxury was the continuation of existence itself, a luxury often bought at an immeasurable price, a cost few truly understood. While they spoke of diversified investment portfolios and navigating the complex terrain of property ladders, of the intricate choices involved in elite school districts and the meticulous planning required for comfortable retirement plans, deliberating over 401k allocations, and the wisdom of global market trends, discussing the latest AI-driven trading algorithms or the future of renewable energy investment, Justin navigated the treacherous, often opaque currents of human suffering. His days, a symphony of high-pitched alarms, the rhythmic thrum of monitors, the hushed urgency of medical directives, and his nights often punctuated by the lingering echoes of screams, visceral, primal sounds that no amount of time could fully erase, sounds that burrowed deep into the subconscious, replaying themselves in unwanted dreams, often manifesting as phantom cries in the dead of night, stirring him from fitful sleep, a constant reminder of the suffering he had witnessed, and the chilling, profound silence of loss, a silence that resonated with a depth no other silence could replicate, a heavy, suffocating quiet that spoke volumes of what was no longer, of futures abruptly curtailed, of families shattered, of the irreparable void left by a life extinguished, a silence that carried the unbearable weight of finality, the devastating truth of absence, a silence that permeated the very marrow of his bones. His prime, a period supposedly for self-actualization and personal gratification, for the unbridled pursuit of individual desires and ambitions, for savoring the bloom of youth and the promise of boundless possibility, was instead consecrated to the unwavering service of others, a constant offering of himself at the unyielding, demanding altar of emergency medicine, a ritualistic devotion that consumed his energy, his thoughts, and his very emotional being, leaving precious little room for the cultivation of a private life, for the quiet pursuit of personal happiness, or for the simple indulgence of spontaneous whims, for the mundane yet essential acts of self-care and personal reflection that sustained others. He chose to stand where the light of life flickered precariously, where the delicate flame of existence threatened to be extinguished with every labored breath, where hope was often a fragile whisper, a faint, almost inaudible plea against the deafening roar of despair and the encroaching shadow of oblivion, where the very act of existing was a defiant declaration against oblivion, a stubborn, glorious refusal to yield, a testament to the unquenchable will of the human spirit. This wasn't a casual choice, not a fleeting inclination, but a profound, almost spiritual calling, one that reshaped his entire being from its foundation, altering his perceptions of time, value, and purpose in ways that were irreversible and deeply transformative, creating a fissure between his former self and the man he was becoming, a chasm that only those who walked his path could truly understand, a silent brotherhood forged in the fires of shared responsibility and unspoken burdens. He had, in essence, chosen to live at the sharpest edge of human experience, a place where the trivialities of everyday life evaporated, leaving only the stark, profound truths of existence, a place where he found his deepest, most undeniable purpose, where the fleeting nature of all things was not an abstract concept, but a lived visceral reality that informed every beat of his own heart. The emergency room became his involuntary university, a brutal yet undeniably effective curriculum vitae, teaching him lessons no textbook could impart, no lecture hall could convey, forging within him a resilience that was not merely psychological but seemed to permeate his very cellular structure, a deep-seated toughness that enabled him to confront the most harrowing aspects of human existence without succumbing to cynicism or despair, a protective membrane that allowed him to witness immense suffering without becoming calcified by it, without allowing the constant exposure to tragedy to erode his innate capacity for empathy. It was a rigorous education in the rawest forms of humanity, where every case was a practical exam, every decision a test of nerve and skill, and every outcome a lesson etched into his memory, refining his intuition and sharpening his judgment, honing his instincts to a fine, almost supernatural edge, an acuity that allowed him to perceive the subtle shifts in vital signs, the almost imperceptible changes in skin tone, the nuanced language of a patient's eyes, all of which spoke volumes about the internal struggles unfolding. He learned to operate at the razor's edge of human capacity, a thin, shimmering line where every decision, every nuanced movement, every uttered word carried the immeasurable weight of life and death, a constant, high-stakes negotiation with mortality itself, a delicate dance with the spectre of ultimate loss, where the margin for error was infinitesimal and the consequences of miscalculation were absolute and irreversible, echoing through the lives of those he touched, a responsibility that often felt like carrying the weight of the universe on his shoulders. The air in the ER was often thick with a potent, almost palpable cocktail of fear, hope, and the metallic tang of blood, a sensory overload that, over time, he learned not just to tolerate, but to interpret, to use as a vital source of information, a language of urgency understood only by those who immersed themselves fully in its ceaseless, demanding discourse, a secret dialect of survival spoken in hushed tones and frantic movements, in the tension of shoulders and the flicker of eyes, in the subtle shifts of breathing and the clammy feel of skin, a silent symphony of distress and resilience, each element contributing to a comprehensive, if terrifying, understanding of the immediate situation. This environment, far from dulling his senses, sharpened them to an almost preternatural degree, transforming him into a finely tuned instrument capable of discerning the subtlest shifts in a patient's condition, of reading the unspoken narratives of pain and panic etched onto their faces, etched into